Welcome to the Next Gen Podcast. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Bryson Wright and Alex Winton. They got next, so let's get to the show.
Hello and welcome into the Next Gen Podcast here on the Bluff City Media Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Bryson Wright, and I'm joined by my co-host, Alex Winton. And we got a lot to get to this week, but we got to start with the biggest news in basketball, obviously, is the NBA playoffs still going on. And we're going to get to some Grizzly stuff within this too, but we're going to start with just talking about the series, talking about some of the picks we made last week. Not going to brag too much, but I went 8 for 8 in the first round. That's all I'm going to say. I went 8 for 8.
Yeah, listen, I wasn't even close to 8 for 8. The good stuff on that, because I think I got maybe like 2 right, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think how short some of the series were surprised me, because like I picked the Timberwolves to beat the Suns, but I think I picked the Timberwolves in like 6 games.
Yeah,
because I really did not expect like KD to go outside. Like KD, Booker, Bill, like, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, they got, even though they struggled through the year and stuff, I was like, okay, but they gonna win a game. You know what I mean? They gonna win a game or two.
Especially after that. I think they either won the season series or had like 2 or like split it. I'm thinking, okay, especially after that last game, you're thinking, oh, they gonna win at least a game or something. But yeah, no. I couldn't believe it.
So that was crazy. And then obviously watching the first game of Nuggets Timberwolves, and coming into the playoffs, I have said I think the Nuggets are going to come out of the West, and I'm not necessarily saying that I'm ready to move off of that 100% yet, but after the way that Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves played in Game 1, like there's nobody on that roster right now that has anything to do with Anthony Edwards. Like they cannot do anything with it. They do not have the point of attack defense. They got 2. They're one of the only teams. The Timberwolves are the only teams that have 2 big men that can, physically bang with Jokic a little bit. Even though Cat isn't as big as Jokic, just having both of those big bodies out there, and having on Jokic, and then having Gobert as the help defender, it's gonna make it a little bit tougher on him. I mean, I think you saw that a little bit. Obviously, he still had 30-something points because he's awesome.
I think he had like 32, like 11 and something.
Which is crazy. But you can get through that. And I'm glad they didn't double him either, because I think that really does mess them up. Like if you double Jokic, it honestly makes him more dangerous, because when he's passing and everybody else is hitting shots, like that team's even harder to stop. So I kind of like that they didn't double him and really were just like, hey, Cat, you might just have to go one-on-one and have Rudy as your help defender, or have Rudy go one-on-one with him at times. But they'd rather do that than have everybody get going. And I think that really did help the Timberwolves. And, I mean, their defense all season has been incredible. And, I mean, in Game 1, they set the tone defensively, and the Nuggets had to match that tone. And I think they did match the tone defensively, probably more in, like, that second quarter, into that first quarter. They started to match it, but, like, Minnesota came out and said, this is the type of series it's going to be. Like, y'all are going to have to defend, or we are going to run you out of the gym. And that's really what I saw in Game 1. So we'll see how the Nuggets respond, though, because, I mean, they're going to have to defend from the opening tip-off. That slow start stuff that they did against the Lakers is not going to work against Minnesota.
Yeah, it's not that's the thing. I think even Mike Malone said it, like, they can't play for like 2.5, 3 quarters. Because I said that about the Nuggets in the sense of you're not gonna they're not gonna beat themselves. You have to beat them for 48 minutes. And for me, it was about the game plan discipline, and if Minnesota could do that. And they did show to some extent that they can. I think again with Minnesota, really the biggest thing, like you said, they don't want to double, because again, when it comes to playoffs and just even in basketball in general, like when you get 2 on the ball like that, it's gonna make your defense a lot harder to really maintain, because once you get 2 on the ball, somebody's open and you know how to make the right reads. Like all you gotta do is just make the shot at the end of the day. So that's why with them not doubling Jokic, like I said, messes up their flow. I think obviously Murray's hurt, that calf not right, because again, Murray, if he steps up, they probably win Game 1. And then on top of that, if Nas Reed doesn't go off, which again, this is why we talked about it. I've said it before. We talked about it with the playoffs. Like role players are going to have their random games where they win you a game. Literally, Nas Reed is the reason they won that game. He had 2 momentum
100%.
Yeah, swing plays. The bank three, I think, on the right wing where they was up maybe like 2, hit that, and then I think the possession right after had a putback dunk. That kept that momentum with Minnesota the whole quarter, and then all Ant had to do was just finish the job essentially because Denver couldn't really get a rhythm after that. Even though they was coming back, like they were not the same. So, like you said, yeah, I think again, I still feel good about Denver winning because the just because of the variables. I don't think Nas Reed is gonna now. Could be wrong. I said about Rui Hachimura last year. I didn't think Rui Hachimura was gonna get like 20 every game, but as if Nas Reed's gonna get 20 every game, or Jaden McDaniel's gonna get like 15, 20, like they're gonna have to get scoring from somewhere. Because again, they did everything well, and they only won, I think, was it 106-99 or something like that. Like it wasn't a lot.
It was close. And well, the Nuggets definitely had a chance to still win that game. I felt like down the stretch, Ant was hitting all those turnaround jumpers and all that. Like he was going crazy. But I really feel like the Nuggets, if they like the start is what hurt them more than anything.
Yeah.
That's why I said we're gonna see how they respond in game 2. But the other thing is now in game 2, all of the pressure is on Denver. Minnesota has no pressure in game 2. Like that, you go in as the road team, you always go in. It's awesome to get. If you can go up 2-0 on the road, that's awesome. But you just got to get one. That's really the goal. Like if you can get one, now all you got to do is go and win your home games. And they did that. And now all the pressure is on Denver to match that. And I'll tell you one thing. As much as that mindset of just get one, that is the mindset going into game 1. When you look at Ant, when you look at Cat, Rudy, all those guys, I think, and of course Mike Conley, Mike Conley in the third quarter looked like Grizzlies Mike Conley for a stretch there, making threes, making floaters. He was doing. I was like, okay, Mike, holding it down for the whole.
It looked like Mike Conley in the last year of his Grizzlies tenure, where he had he's been like 22 a game, something like that.
Mike Conley with the little dreads, that Mike Conley.
Yeah, the locks. Yeah, the locks Mike Conley.
That's how he was hooping for a little bit. So I mean, they really and I think it was Cat that said it. They got a big 15, like really top to bottom. They have a really good roster. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if the Timberwolves do end up winning. I'm not saying that I am 100% saying they're going to win it. I don't know if I can necessarily move from my pick. I did pick the Nuggets. I still think they have that championship DNA and all that.
Yeah, still feel good. I say still feel good for now.
But this is the first time in the last 2 playoffs where the Nuggets have actually been trailing in a series. So it's like Minnesota's got
that is right. I didn't think about that.
Dang, so they really have not been trailing in the series. Like they didn't trail in any of those series last year. So it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I think I kind of had a feeling this was going to be the best series of the playoffs if it did end up happening, just because of how it was last year. And I think the second year with a group like that together, when you make a big trade, the first year usually doesn't go the best. I usually feel like that second year is really when you see like, okay, they've had a whole year, really now 2 full, like they've had 2 training camps, 2 off seasons to work together, 2 82-game seasons.
Yeah,
they've
already been
to a playoff run. And now they're healthy. And that's the biggest thing too, is that besides Chris Finch, they're pretty healthy. So, they got, which I will say, shout out to Chris Finch though, because he jumped in front of Mike Conley on that. Because obviously, who knows if Mike would have been okay, but he broke his fall and he was like, "Hey, look, you need your knee more than I need my knee to coach." That's basically what Chris Finch said. So
man, listen, Chris Finch still being at the games is crazy. I mean, they had him on crutches. He was out there on the row behind the front of the bench. I'm like, man, that's crazy. He is on the best type of painkillers. Ain't no way. Listen, if I had surgery, y'all will not be seeing me. What was it? Because they get surgery that Wednesday, and then it was Saturday, like 3-4 days after that. I mean, no, be at home or maybe or in the hotel, something like. I was attending. Nah, he better than me. That's all I'm gonna say. He better than me. Shout out to Chris Finch because ain't no way. Ain't no way.
But yeah, and then kind of staying in the West too, Mavericks. I mean, I feel like they really, like the way they closed out that series with Luka and Kyrie, like their 2-man game, or really not the 2-man game, but them like kind of taking turns. And I think that's been the biggest thing is like Luka and Kyrie have kind of perfected like when Kyrie is going, Kyrie gets the ball and Kyrie goes on his stretch. And then when Luka gets going, Luka gets the ball, he goes on his stretch. And maybe Luka gets a break and Kyrie gets to run the offense, or Luka runs the offense and Kyrie like. But having one of them on the court basically at all times, I think it's like the difference in the Mavericks this year and the Mavericks, even when they had Jalen Brunson. Because I mean, when they had Jalen Brunson, Luka was hurt for part of those playoffs too. But you saw you saw that same kind of dynamic, and obviously Jalen Brunson now is incredible, and we'll talk about the East in a little bit too. But if you're talking about Kyrie compared to how Jalen Brunson played on the Mavericks right then, Kyrie is basically like the ultimate version of that. Now if you're talking Jalen Brunson now, it might be a different story. But just going back those 2 years ago, having Jalen Brunson do that, and they went to the Western Conference Finals when that happened, and that was with Luka being hurt. So it's not surprising to me to see them win that series. And when I originally made my picks for the playoffs, I did pick the Mavericks over the Thunder in the second round too. Not to say that I think the Thunder are bad. I think it'll be a really long series, and I think SGA is awesome. I think Chet has had a great season. Jalen Williams has a great season, but I just feel like usually just in general, teams don't make the deep run their first time. Just in general. Now there have been exceptions, and I think it actually was the Thunder that was like the last exception. But that still wasn't like that wasn't when KD and Russ, that wasn't their first year together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, Chet's a rookie. Jalen Williams is in year 2. Now SGA has been there for a while, but I'm just like, I think between Luka and Kyrie, and then when you add in having PJ Washington out there, having Daniel Gafford out there, instead of, even though I know Maxi Kleber got hurt, but having Daniel Gafford instead of like Maxi Kleber and the Dwight Powell, and then even Derek Lively has been making big plays for them too. So it's just like, I feel like they have much more around Luka than they have in the past. And I mean, I think this is the best version of the Mavs we've seen since Luka's been there.
Yeah. I mean, I probably agree. Yeah, because I don't think Kyrie. I don't think Luka's ever had a player like Kyrie. Because, like you said, with Jalen Brunson, he had Brunson, and I think again they probably should have signed him back. But the thing is, Kyrie's been a number 2 on a championship team, so that's why this is a natural role for him, because he's been able to do this. Like, he had the playoff run, and he had to play off KD. So like, he's not. This is like his real role. Like, it's not bad. And again, people hear that say number 2, number 3, and all that. Like, options, like, it's not bad to be a number 2. Like, you can be one of the best number 2s. I think Kyrie can be that, or he has done that, obviously. But with that series, I thought really, like, I said Kawhi healthy, I thought the Clippers gonna win, but then he wasn't healthy, and I was like, dang, well, that means Mavs are gonna win. But then for a second there, they looked better without Kawhi because he wasn't healthy. Like, they were playing really well, but ultimately, again, just the Mavs were just better in most aspects. Like, I think their front court play pretty well. Their role players play pretty well. And then again, just simply put, with the Clippers, the stars didn't play like stars. Like, Harden and PG couldn't have 2 consecutive good games. Like, they'd have one good game and then they'd be bad. Have one good game and they'd be bad. Like, you can't do that in the playoffs. You got to be consistent. And the thing is, I always say, it's inexcusable to have, if you're an all-star level player, or like an all-star, perennial all-star, there's no way you should be getting, if you're playing 30 minutes, like, unless it's not foul trouble, you're playing like 30, 35, 40 minutes, there's no reason you should have single digits in points. There's just no reason. There's no reason. They had, I think, that in like game 2 and like game 5, or I think game 2, maybe game 3, I can't remember which one it was, but either way, they had games where, like you said, with Maxi Kleber, I think one game outplayed Harden or PG. Like, that just can't happen. That just can't happen. You're not going to win the series like that.
Oh, yeah. And then, like, game 5, like, the Clippers had game 5 at home in a 2-2 series. And it, historically speaking, 2-2 series, game 5 is always a swing game. Like, the team that wins game 5 usually wins the series. Knowing that, and especially even with, with Russ, with Harden, with PG, with some of those guys, like to know that and then come out flat the way they did in that game 5, I was like, yeah, that just really that felt like the series. Because then
Yeah.
it's like even Harden saying that after the game, where it's like, well, now all the pressure is on the Mavericks. Like, I guess it's on them to win in game 6, but y'all had all the pressure in game 5. Like, why did y'all should have been playing like you can't. I mean, they were down by like 20, 30 points most of the game.
At
And
the
I'm like,
crib.
man, at home. And it's
At
like,
the
this
crib.
is like the game 5. Like, it's one thing to do that on the road. And obviously, it can be embarrassing to lose by a lot on the road, too. But in front of your home fans in like the swing game of the playoffs, like, man, that was really like that really felt like it was more than one win. Like, there are some times where playoff wins it really feels like it's more than just one. Now I know it only counts for one, and you try to say that when it comes to like psychological stuff. Like I'll go back to that Nuggets Lakers series. The Nuggets winning game 2 of that series, it really felt like they won 2 games, like just from a psychological standpoint. Because now you've inputted in there that like even if you go up by 20, it doesn't matter because
Yeah.
this team just has your number. And I
Yeah.
just feel like that's kind of what happened to them.
Yeah. And my thing is just to go back to your what you were talking about with the Mavericks, like, yeah, like usually this, I think this was their first series beating the Clippers because the last 2 times they couldn't get over the hump in Game 7, and so I'm pretty sure. And then the funny part about it, the ironic part about it to me is like Luka didn't. I mean, Luka played well, but he had the knee sprain, and he played pretty fine, like to his standards, it wasn't Luka. Like I think he averaged like probably like 29, 9 and 9. But usually, like in the regular season, averaging like 35, 10 and 10. Like basically this is what he's putting up. And for that to be the series that they win is pretty impressive. And I think again, this is a testament when we're talking about like this is probably the best team he's had. And I think that will show going forward because, like you said, with the next round, I do have them winning the Mavericks because what you were talking about earlier. Usually, teams just historically don't win, but also I always say like experience is always gonna matter. Like it always matters. That happened to our team in 2020. Was it 2? Yeah, we played Golden State. Now obviously Jai got hurt. That doesn't help. Like that's part of it. But like there were like in that series to me, the swing games were game 4 and game 1. And a lot of that stuff came down to not valuing every possession. And even last year, to some extent, not game 1, but really game 4 really showed that as well. So, those little things, like, it's always going to matter because every possession literally matters in the playoffs. Like a stretch where you have like a 2-minute stretch where you have like 4 or 5 turnovers can hurt you because they can end up losing you the game. Like we're going to go over obviously the other series before, but like there's a series that we saw in the first round where if, like I say, for example, like Philly, they win that one game where they lost, ended up losing it, and they had like I think they had to leave like I think they had like a 7-point lead with like a minute or like 30, 40 seconds left, and then they lost it. They win that game, they probably are still playing right now, or in the game 7, or they were up. Like either way, like that, those type of things matter. And I just think the Mavericks who have been there, obviously the roster's not the same, but you got your best 2 players have been there to at least the conference finals. Luka's been to the conference finals. Kyrie's been to the NBA finals. I think those guys are going to be able to, you'll see the experience really show up because even though the Thunder are more talented, and I do agree with that, I think the Mavs have more experience, and I also think Luka's the best player in the series still. So when you have those 2 things going for you, I do think that helps, and it goes a long way. So yeah, but shout out to the Mavs though, because again, for them to kind of be able to build this roster how they built it, and again to get Lively and get Gafford, get PJ Washington, I think those are really good ads, and to see it come to fruition, you gotta salute it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think like seeing Derek Lively play the way that he kind of has played in the playoffs, it does give you like if you're one of the people that want the Grizzlies to go after a center, like that's the guy you point to be like, I mean, we've seen a rookie center come in, and maybe if he's not the number 1 center, obviously they got Daniel Gafford as well. But it's like I feel like that's a similar thing to what we can see the Grizzlies try to do is maybe bring in a veteran center and then draft somebody. And I mean, like, we've seen it work now for the Mavericks, and we see how much better, like, especially on the offensive glass too. Like, their offensive rebounding has been way better. And it actually feels like they have a physical presence, which it really didn't feel like they had that in the past. Uh, because I mean, Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell, those guys, they really were never like the physical bruiser type dude that
Yeah,
I see
they
like
finesse
Daniel
bigs.
Gafford.
Yeah, let's be honest, they finesse bigs. No problem with it, but they finesse bigs. Like it's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're not your Tyson Chandlers like you used to have, or like like those type bigs. They didn't have those. Like Brendan Haywards, like they didn't have that, but they needed it. That's why I liked the Lively pick when it happened. Like back then, I was like, okay, that's a good pick, and he's been better than expected. But again, I will say, like you said, it does help the agenda for people that want the Grizzlies to draft the center. Now, I will say the only person that's like Lively in this class that mobile and can move and do all that is Sar. Now again, lottery will be happening soon. I think with lottery next Sunday, ain't it? If I'm not mistaken.
Next
Yeah.
Sunday.
So now let the Grizz get number one. Okay. And even if they don't, but point is you can still get a big that can contribute. But that's really the pathway for me. Is like even though you still draft a big, get a free agency big because now you see because even with Lively and Gafford, they split the minutes and basically it's always situational. Who's ever playing better at the time? Like I think Lively the last two games of the series like finished. I think he had like 23, 24 minutes, and Gafford had like 19 or 18. But still, both are contributing at a high level. And you got to think no disrespect to them, but I think in the Grizzlies context, it might be even better because I think of just the players that will be around them. So, yeah, I think that should be the route to go. But yeah, the Mavs did make some good moves. But yeah, those two bigs, I think that's really gonna make the difference for him in this next series too. Because OKC's front court is not great. Like Valanciunas was out rebounding basically the Thunder by himself. So now you're dealing with Gafford and Lively, and both of them are more mobile than Nance and JV. So I think that can cause some problems. That's going to be a big key in that series.
Yeah, for sure. And then moving on to the East too, I really think, I mean, not just the best series of the first round, but like the best series that I've seen in a while. Like, I mean, I have to go year by year and look, but that Knicks and 76er series, I think coming down to it, the Knicks won the entire series by 1 point.
Yeah,
Like,
they did.
Count up all the points from the Knicks and all the points from the Sixers. The Knicks won by 1 point. And I mean, Jalen Brunson, I mean, because we talked about it earlier about comparing him now to where he was on the Mavericks. He's like in a different stratosphere. Like he is like on a different level than he ever was. And I mean, you look at that. I mean, he has that work ethic and everything. Obviously, his dad played in the NBA, and he knew what it would take to get there. And he just has like, I feel like he just has that like dog mentality, really, like that. And that's really what you see is that like he's 6'1", but I'm gonna hound you on defense. I'm driving to the cup every time. The jump shot is falling and everything. And then after those first couple games, I said it to like, because I got a lot of friends that are Knicks fans and stuff like that, and I was like, hey, shout out to the Knicks for winning the first game or winning whatever game it was. But I'm like, Jalen Brunson, like you're not gonna win games if Jalen Brunson is going 8 for 27. That's not gonna happen consistently. He's gonna have to play better. And then ever since then, he did. I mean, he had an incredible stretch to end that. And I really just think that the way that he's playing and the way that he's been playing with the Knicks and kind of the way that he embodies their entire kind of like their culture and everything, and Tom Thibodeau, like he's like the perfect dude to play for a Tibbs team because he's the type of dude that wants to play 42, 43 minutes a game. Like that's just how he's built. That's the type of dude he is. So it was really cool to see that. Josh Hart is one of those dudes where I'll say I would love to have Josh Hart on my team at any time because even if the shot's not always falling, he's giving 160%, not even like 180% sometimes. You know what I mean? The offensive rebounding that he had was awesome. And then, Hartenstein, I really like what I saw from Hartenstein. He's playing too good for me to push my agenda. I would always say I would love for Isaiah Hartenstein to be the Grizzlies starting center next year. And if they could do it, like I'm all for it because I know he's going to be a free agent. But he's playing so good. Like I think New York is going to offer him the bag. Like New York is going to offer him the bag this offseason.
I got to see it. I got agendas to push. I got to see all this. I gotta see all this for.
Oh yeah, no, that's true.
And then role players. That's real. If he was a star, cool. Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
Regardless, hey, throw some money at him. Let's see how much he really loves New York. Because I mean that dude's playing awesome. And I mean, obviously Joel Embiid is Joel Embiid, but he's out there doing everything he can against one of the best players in the league.
On one knee.
Yeah, exactly. So
basically,
which is still crazy that Embiid was as good as he was on one knee. But I just and that was really I really said coming into it, I was like, if Joel had been 100% and I really felt like Joel was healthy, I probably would have picked the Sixers in that series. But I was just and I think you saw it down the stretch of those games is that he started strong, but by the when you have an injury, it's like you get tired quicker. You can't your defensive explosion he was not the same level of rim protector that he's been in the regular season. He couldn't really jump at all, and it's just that had a big effect on him. And I really just felt down the stretch of the game in the fourth quarter, it felt like he had just expended all his energy, and he couldn't keep it up in the fourth. That's really what it felt like. Whereas the Knicks, I mean, they play, and I think that's why Tibbs plays his guys so many minutes in the regular season. Because they're used to it when they get to the playoffs, but it don't work for everybody. It don't work for not everybody can do that. You got to have certain type of players. You got to have some Josh Harts and Jalen Brunsons and guys like that. Some dudes that want to play 40 minutes a game in the regular season against the Hornets. There's not a lot of dudes that are like that. But when Tibbs finds those type of dudes, even going back to when he was with Chicago and they had some of those runs, when you have the Joakim Noah type dudes who are real deal, go out and I'll play all the minutes, guard whoever you want me to guard because that's just how I am. That's the kind of guys he needs, and I think they got a lot of those guys. And I did think it was pretty cool, just the fact that Jalen Brunson and Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart, all three of them, being Philly legends for the Villanova runs, and then going in and beating the Sixers. I just always think stuff like that is funny, because obviously I think Jalen Brunson even said it. He was looking up at his Villanova banners when he's hitting clutch shots against the 76ers. And I'm like, I know there were some Villanova and Sixer fans in that arena that were sick watching that. Because I can only imagine, obviously as a Tennessee fan, watching – you want to see the guys from your school do good, but if Dalton Connect gets drafted to another team and then comes and drops 50 on the Grizzlies, I'm gonna be mad. That's just I would be dang. It's you happy, but it's wait, why you have to do that against my team though? You couldn't do that against somebody else. And I feel there's probably a lot of people that were like that in that last game as well, just watching the way Jalen Brunson was playing. And all three of them had really big impacts on the series. And I think it really shows that chemistry is so important, and chemistry that you build, even if it's before they made it to the NBA, whether it was on Team USA, whether it's, growing up together, whatever, I think that chemistry can be really important just because those guys know where they want the ball, what kind of shots they like to take, when do they want to screen, when do they want to go one-on-one. It's just all the stuff you kind of develop playing with each other. And I mean, they've been playing with each other for so long. I think that was really something that you could tell down the stretch of that series.
Yeah. Listen, I know one person that wasn't mad about what he saw. It was Jay Wright. Jay Wright was smiling that whole time, seeing some of his last Villanova players just playing together and playing winning basketball. But the Knicks. Oh, one thing you said about Josh Hart, saying, "I wish you take a lot of Josh Harts." I'm gonna just say this now. I said it on Twitter. And I know I was half joking, but I was being serious because I think it was a shout out to saying he posted talking about G.G. Jackson and Vince Williams Jr. in the playoffs. I said, and this is how I view him. I view Vince Williams as a Josh Hart type of player who could basically a bigger Josh Hart who could shoot better. I'm not saying he's the same type of rebounder, but he rebounds well. He's a little bit bigger. He makes shots. He does all the winning plays. So I just want y'all to let y'all know we might have Josh Hart at home. We are good. We are good. But yeah, no, you talking about with the players, you got to have players that fit the city. I think that always helps. And Josh Hart's one of them. Brunson's one of them. Hart's not really that. Most of that roster does. McBride is another one where I like McBride coming out, and he was, I thought he's gonna be solid, but like I didn't expect him offensively to be as good as he was. Obviously you got Mitchell Robinson. They've had depth, and shoot, the thing is they lost depth. You gotta think they lost Julius Randle. They lost Bogdanovich. I think he's out for the rest of the year too. So they only playing like 7-8 deep. Like really, I mean, most people teams are only playing 7-8, but they're really only playing like 7. Like everybody's getting like 50 minutes. But that was a great series because again, like just one team would be up big and then they'd come back, or you had a lot of crazy moments. And I mean, and we almost went to 7, like in spite of all that. And like you said, like
as much as when it comes to most of these series, I didn't really care either way. Obviously, if you pick somebody to win, you hope they win because it makes you look good. It makes you look good.
Yeah,
but like
absolutely.
As a basketball fan, I was kind of hoping it was going to go to 7. Like watching
that. Yeah, I was
at the end of that game 6. I was kind of like hoping the Sixers could figure it out because I mean we did get one game 7. It's not necessarily probably the game 7 people were expecting or wanted, but I'll say I watched that Magic Cavs game 7 as well, and it was good hoops. Like it was like, and I really liked what I saw from, even though they didn't win, like Paolo Banchero, which he can be a part of this next conversation that we're gonna have too, about this new generation that's really arriving right now. But seeing the way that he played in that series, and even in that last game, maybe not having the best game of his series, he struggled, but really to see him get it, like he was really in the mud the whole second half, like seeing 2-3 guys, they were throwing 2-3 guys at him, but he was finding ways to get to the free throw line, finding ways to score, finding ways to, find his open teammates who maybe didn't make the shots. But, I think he did a good job of finding his open teammates. And then on the other side, it really felt like to me, especially in that game 7, it was like Donovan Mitchell came out at halftime and was like, yeah, we're not losing this game. Like, that's just what it looked like. He came out after halftime, he was like, we're not losing this game. Because he had 15 at the half, and he finished with 39. So,
yeah, he had 50 last game.
Yeah, he had 50 the last game. And it's really crazy, but this is the first time in either of our lifetimes that the Cleveland Cavaliers have won a playoff series without LeBron James on the roster. And it's just like crazy to even think about that.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. But obviously, I mean, I still think the Celtics will beat the Cavs. It could be interesting because there's no Porzingis, presumably, for the second round. So, but I mean, the Celtics do still have Al Horford. He's older. They have Al Horford. And this is why they traded for Xavier Tillman. And, even though Xavier Tillman hasn't really
gotten Tillman minutes. He's going to play like 20 minutes.
I'm just saying, man. He might get some minutes now. I don't know exactly, but I mean, it's also going to depend on if Jared Allen is going to come back and if the Cavs are going to be running that too big lineup. But I think if the Cavs do come back and run that too big lineup, you could be seeing some Xavier Tillman minutes for the Celtics in the second round.
I'm gonna laugh if I see some Xavier Tillman minutes in the second round. But yeah, no. To what you're talking about with Orlando, if people see my timeline tweets, they might end up thinking I'm an Orlando fan. I'm not an Orlando fan, obviously. I'm a Grizzly fan. But I have been saying for at least now this whole year, because I won't say I was wrong about Paolo. I just wasn't high on him coming in the draft. This year, he's made me a fan. He's in my top 10 players in terms of favorite, not top 10 players in the league. Now, I think he has that superstar upside now, and I hope people are seeing that. Because what his series reminded me of is when Ja had that series against Utah his first year, and obviously that play-in game. Like, that's what it reminded me of. Like, basically, you're seeing a guy that okay, this dude's going to be a dude. Like, he's going to be like an all-NBA type of player, maybe a superstar. Like, that's the type of series that he had. Like, he wasn't scared of anything. Like, he averaged, like, I think 27, 8, and 5, and I think he shot, like, 47% from the field, 40 from 3, and I think 80 from the line or 70 from the line. Either way, he had a great series. They just didn't have enough offense, but that's the thing with the Magic. Defensively, they set the tone, so they're gonna be good going into the offseason. Cleveland, they weren't. It's funny because they tank for that matchup, and again, basketball gods are funny. Karma, how they use karma is funny. You tank for that matchup, you end up going to 7. You thought you was gonna have an easy matchup? No, you had to go all the way to 7. But again, with Donovan Mitchell, he just wasn't gonna let him lose that game. But for me, like I said on Twitter earlier, I'm not surprised because we got to remember Donovan Mitchell been doing this since his rookie year. Like he basically played against prime, I don't say prime Paul George, but really good Paul George still. Russell Westbrook. I mean, if you don't count Carmelo Anthony, cool. But he went against two perennial all-stars his rookie year. Obviously, I know Gobert was on that team, but Donovan Mitchell was the guy that ended up being the catalyst for that, and they won in 6. Like he's been doing this where he had to carry teams, and now you think it's against Orlando. No disrespect to Orlando, I think they got a bright future, but they didn't have anybody that could really stay in front of him in terms of wings. Because no disrespect to Jalen Suggs, I like Suggs. I think he's gonna be great, but yeah, just Mitchell, he was really too good. But like you said about the next series, I mean, obviously, I think Celtics win that. I said it last series about Celtics. They're gonna trick off a game or two. Like they did that last series. I knew they was gonna do it. They was gonna do a trick off one game where they're shooting the ball bad, and then the other team's making everything. Like that's probably gonna happen.
They're also gonna have a Derek White game every series. But Derek White has 37 points.
Yeah, that too. And my thing is like with that. Like, yeah, the series, like you said, it could be interesting. Depends on if Jared Allen comes back. Depends on if KP comes back, because I know they said he's going to be out for a while. But how long is a while? They didn't really specify. So you factor that in. It's probably going to go 6, I think. But I still got Boston. I mean, it's hard. I know they lost KP, and KP's the X factor. But I would be more worried about it if it was a different team. I think the Cavs offensively don't have enough for the Celtics, especially if the Celtics are on. If the Celtics, like I think people say, if Celtics hit threes, then you just might as well just wrap it up. They go hit a lot of threes. Listen, you just in for a long night. And again, the Cavs got the defense to do it, but I don't think they got the offense. Because if they were struggling against Orlando to score, and obviously Orlando's a great defense, I'm pretty sure Boston was either as good of a defense or a better defense in all regular season. And now you don't have Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell, even though he was great. He's on one knee right now. His knee's not really playing or really good right now. And then Garland hasn't been as good. So, yeah, I still got Boston in this series. But, I mean, I still expect it to be a competitive series. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout every game. But I do expect Boston to come out and go to the conference finals. So, yeah, I just think I'm high. I'm not high on Boston. Like, obviously, I'm not saying they're going to win the whole thing. They can win the whole thing. But, like, you don't win 64 games for no reason. I'm just gonna say that they didn't win 64 games just because they won 64 games. But they are a really good team.
So, I mean, yeah. When I made my official picks, I did end up picking the Celtics to win it, just because I feel like it might be a little bit different now that Kristaps is injured. I think that is going to hurt them a lot. They still have Al Horford, like I said, and Al Horford is one of those guys who's been there before. But it's just like I feel like we've seen it so many times where teams kind of have to get over the hump. And it feels like if there's any year for them to finally get over the hump, it would be this year. I mean, they've added Drew Holiday. You got Kristaps Porzingis. Derek White is playing the way he's playing. Jason Tatum is taking that next step and is becoming a facilitator on top of being a good scorer. Jaylen Brown has been playing better, right? And it just feels like there's so many things that are going together. They got shooting off the bench. Sam Hauser's coming in there, knocking down 4 threes randomly. Peyton Pritchard has had his moments. They've had a lot of dudes that have kind of had moments. And that's really kind of what you need in the playoffs is you need to have your stars, and you got to have a couple role players that can just have those little heater moments like we saw, like talk about Naz Reid, where Naz Reid goes on his heater. Josh Hart for the Knicks had his moments as well. A guy like
2 games like
exactly.
Double.
A guy like maybe Miles Turner, I'd say maybe he's a little bit higher level role player necessarily. I think he's a better player than maybe some of those guys, but he had his moments too for the Pacers.
I'll say one today too. Sam Merrill, even though he played 11 minutes, he had 8 points in that second quarter, and they basically made that run, and then basically that run led them to getting the lead back in the third quarter. Like if he didn't hit like 2 or 3 of those shots, they probably stood down by like 20. Like they were big momentum shots to give him momentum. So yeah, like little stuff like that always adds up, especially like literally people. I think people understand everything in the playoffs matters. Miss box out matters. Miss free throw matters. Literally everything. So you have to value literally every possession because the game can swing on 1 or 2 plays. Like even former players say that all the time. Like if these 2 plays go different, you might be looking at a different series. So, yeah, but especially like you said, role players playing well, having your stars playing their best and being healthy. That's the luck part of it. Can you be healthy enough? Obviously, You know, you can say whatever for the Clippers, they weren't healthy enough.
The Bucks.
Obviously, yeah, Bucks. I was gonna say yeah, Bucks were the same one. I mean, Celtics weren't. I mean, sure. I mean, Miami wasn't healthy. I mean, they lost Jimmy, some other people, but all that, you know, it's all part of the game. I know people are talking about that, but literally injuries happen every year. Like that's the luck part of it. Can you be healthy enough to stay in it? I mean, so it's really a war of attrition. That's really what it is.
And there's a lot of guys, and that doesn't necessarily mean, and just because somebody's playing doesn't always mean they're healthy either. Like you talk about Jamal Murray, like he's playing, you know, he's not 100%. Donovan Mitchell, as well as he played today, he's not quite 100%. Joel Embiid played all those games, he wasn't 100%. And it's like Jalen Suggs and Paulo Banchero were both limping at times in that Orlando game. So
Luka
it's just
Doncic.
like, Luka's not playing 100%. So it's just like going through all of these people. Like even Luka, I think, said before Game 6, said that if it was a regular season game, he probably
wouldn't play. It was like he had an illness and a knee sprain, so he's like, oh yeah, I probably wouldn't play this game, but it's playoffs. it's money time, it's winning time. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But we're gonna keep everybody updated with the playoffs and everything. We could probably talk about the playoffs for 2 hours if we wanted to every week. But I kind of wanted to get to the next part of this conversation, which is still about the playoffs, but it's also just about where the league is going. And it's really just the fact that the new generation, like the next generation of the NBA, it's almost like you can feel the takeover happening this year. I saw this stat. It was posted on ESPN today. There are only 6 starters that are still in the playoffs right now that are above the age of 30. And you could argue that none of them are the best player on their team. Actually, I'd say none of them are the best player on their team. I guess you could try to argue if Pascal Siakam's the best, but most people probably say Halliburton. Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Kyrie Irving, Drew Holiday. Those are the 30-plus-year-old starters, right? And, you know, Kyrie is now the second option to Luka. Obviously, Rudy Gobert is great on defense, but, you know, they got Ant. And, you know, same for Mike. Mike is playing, like, the perfect role for him. KCP is a role player. Drew Holiday is more of a role player. So it's like this is the first time, I think, since, 2005 that in the second round there's no KD, Steph, or LeBron. Like, none of those guys are there. And it's one of those things where, obviously, I always respect what those guys did, and you got to respect, like, KD, Steph, LeBron, all the stuff that they've done for the game. But it's like you can kind of see that their time is coming to an end, and you can kind of see this next generation is really taking over. And it brings up these interesting questions because everybody tries to rank people and everything like that. But even not from a ranking standpoint, going from like a Grizzly standpoint, this is why I think it was Sane that put something out a couple weeks ago talking about who on the Grizzlies has the most pressure. And I said it was Ja. And a lot of people were kind of like, how is it Ja? What are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm not saying this from Grizzlies fans. I'm talking from an outside perspective. Because now, and let me preface this by saying, I think Ja is going to come back and he's going to prove that, you know, anybody you said is past him, whatever, he's going to prove he's on that same level. Like, he is one of those guys. He is one of the dudes that is going to be a part of this conversation for the next 10 years, whatever you want to say, right? But the NBA, and especially these days in the social media era, is a what have you done for me lately league. Whatever you did in 2022, you might as well have done that in 1980, right?
Yeah, they don't care no more, of course.
Like they do not care. Like you can go back. I mean, like I always say this: Giannis won the championship in 2021. It's 2024. They lost this year, and there are already people releasing articles asking questions on if Giannis is going to leave. Right?
And they've been hurt the last 3 years. I just want to add that in. They've been hurt in the last 3 years.
Exactly.
I talked about the luck.
That's how it is now. And it's not to say, like, obviously, I think Ja is going to be one of those guys. And I think he's going to come back and remind people of that. But I do think that he still has that pressure from an outside perspective because of how good Shea has been playing, because of how good Ant has been playing, because of how good even a guy like Tyrese Maxey has been playing, even though he was the second option. Uh, like you see all these young players either drafted the same year as you or drafted a year after you, and it's like Ja was the first of this generation to kind of do that. When you look at coming out in time records with LeBron and Kobe in the playoffs, youngest player to have multiple 45-point.
Yeah, the only person that did it before him was Luka. Outside of that, I always say Ja's the standard for all this. Like he did all this stuff before everybody else did it. In terms of young players.
And throwing Luka in there as well, obviously, because and that's what I always say. Like when you get to because people want to make tiers of like the young guards, and the only ones that for me because I get it, because especially for me and you, we're higher on Ja than most people, obviously, because we watch every Grizzlies game, right? So a Mavs fan is going to take Luka, a Thunder fan is going to take Shea, a Timberwolves fan is going to take Ant, right? But I think it is firmly that it's Luka, Shea, Ant, Ja. Like that is the top tier of the young guards, and then it's like kind of based on where do you see Trae Young in there, because Trae Young is one of those guys where he has been to an Eastern Conference Finals, so it's like you can throw that, but he also hasn't been back to the playoffs since. So it's one of those things. So we're like, how do you really rank him? It's kind of hard. But I mean, in the regular season, if you just look at his stats and his numbers, he's been just as good. But it's just crazy to kind of see this whole especially the young guards, and obviously there's big man and stuff too. Like I said, with Paolo playing as well as he has. But I really feel like it's the young guards that are the ones that are really making stuff happen right now, especially in the West. I mean, the young guards in the Western Conference, it's going to be a dogfight. Like those all-star spots for the next 5-6 years, however long these guys are all in the West, it's going to be hard to see who's going to be a starter and who's going to be coming off the bench. Because I mean, all of those guys, you can Luka, Shea, Ja, and all four of those guys, I think
they're locked if they're healthy. They're locks if
they're all-star locks if they're healthy, and I think all of them also could be. I think they'll all be multiple-time first-team All-NBA. Based on how
they'll make All-NBA team,
yeah. If not second team, I mean, but they're All-NBA caliber dudes, and then you're still gonna have Steph. Steph isn't going anywhere, obviously. So when you he's obviously for the old guard, but it's when you get to the all-star stuff and all that, it's gonna be crazy to see how that works. But yeah, that I do think Ja does have that pressure, and I think he knows that, and I do think he's gonna respond well to it because he's always really responded well to pressure. But we can't act like it's not there, because I definitely think it's there.
Yeah, I mean, let me think. First, to start off, what you talking about with the old guard, I don't know if anybody sees the memes I always post. So anytime they talk about the old guard, because again, Brown, one of my all-time favorite players. Steph, love him. KD, love him. But the picture I keep posting, I forget where it's from, but it says the future is now old man. I post it every time because that's literally what
it's from. Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, the future is now old man. Yeah, I post that every time because that's literally how it feels. Like people don't understand, they don't, this younger generation don't. I'm not saying they don't care about these players, but they look at these players in their eye and we respect what you did, but it's not the same. Ja was doing that 2 years ago with Steph. He putting up 30, 40, I think 35, 36 in that series, his first 3 games. So that was and obviously we see with Ant now against KD and them, against Jokic. These guys are really good, again, and they're all young. But again, I mean the league's in a great place. But yeah, people forget about Ja. I always say it, for the most part, it's out of sight, out of mind. If you don't see somebody, they're not going to think about him. And then you factor all that in with the off-court stuff. People look at him a different way because they're like, okay, now he's not going to be available. Then they already thought he wasn't going to be available because he's going to be hurt. When in reality, Ja, this was the first real injury that kept him out for a significant period of time, a whole season basically. So, you factor all that in. I mean, again, I'm looking at the numbers right now for Ja right now. Literally in a down year in 9 games, he averaged 25 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. That's all-NBA numbers. He would have made an all-NBA team last year had he not done anything stupid off the court. That was the only reason he didn't make an all-NBA team, was because He did the off court stuff. That's literally the only reason, because he was averaging, I think, 27, 6, and 8. Like, he's literally a walking, almost, he's not Bron, but he's literally a walking 25, 5, and 8. Like, that's what he puts up ever since year 3. And that's without a jump shot. Now, I'm not saying he can't shoot. Like, he can't shoot at all, but that's without like a real good jump shot, like high 30s or mid 30s. Imagine if he get a jump shot or he get more spacing. People won't understand how much, no disrespect to the Grizzlies, they've been good, but I've always talked about their offense. They haven't had a lot of shot makers. Not only that, they didn't have a lot of either shot makers or lob threats. Imagine you get some of that. I mean, you got more shot makers now. Imagine you get more lob threats or bigs that are athletic. What he gonna put up then? And he's doing this 32 minutes. I didn't even say that. Jenkins don't play his starters high minutes. Everybody else playing like high 36, 37. Ja's at like 32 minutes. He's doing this. So I say all that to say, yeah, like Ja's still the standard. Now, again, the only guard I personally put over him is obviously Luka. Shea, you can put over him, but again, I like people say, like you said, everybody's so big on what have you done for me lately. I'm big on body of work. Ja's had a 40-ball every playoff. He's got records with Kobe and LeBron, and that was 2 back-to-back postseasons he did that. Not just one, back-to-back postseasons. And before this year, he's in 3 straight playoffs and advancing one of them. Like, all that matters. This is Halliburton's first playoff. This is first time, obviously, Ant has made it past the first round. This is Shea's first playoff as the guy. Not his first playoff, but the one as the guy. The only person is like Luka. I mean, you say Halliburton, but this is his first playoff, and even then, he had struggles. Like, you go down this line, not everybody has the same resume. So, and I value that. What can you do in the playoffs? Because you can be a good regular season 82 game guy, but what can you do in the playoffs? And Ja has a lot of moments in the playoffs that you just can't ignore. But again, like you said, when you're out of sight, out of mind, and people forget about you, that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna put pressure on them. But I mean, whoever, in terms of pressure, me, it starts at the top for me. GM Zach Kleiman, if you're watching, buddy, you got the pressure on you first. You building the roster, and then after that, I go, okay, you got Coach, you got Ja, Jaren Bain after that. But I mean, I'm not, I think you're not far off in terms of Ja having pressure from the outside people, because they're like, can he stay available? Can he basically focus on the court, and can he produce? Like, and they're really not about producing. Can you just stay on the floor? Because like I said, he's a walk-in. He's gonna put up numbers. They're gonna win games. Can you stay on the floor and just keep the main thing, like you said, and like your actions match up with your words. So I mean, I'm confident in Ja, though. I'm not really worried about Ja. Just get back healthy, and he's gonna remind everybody, like, well, wait till we get to like December of this year. Like, I promise you, it's gonna be a different tone. Like, I feel very good about it. It's gonna be a different tone. Everybody gonna be back on it. Oh man, Ja Morant, face of the league. Like, they're gonna be doing all that. Like, let me say last thing, real quick. Last thing, this dude don't play 9 games. Obviously, face of the league is bigger than just jersey sales and all that. But this dude played 9 games, and he was top 10 in jersey sales. Only played 9 games. Let me say that one more time. He played 9 games. 9 games in like middle of the season. And he still was like top 10 in jersey sales.
Yeah, 9 games in December and January.
Yeah, like come on, bro.
The part of the season that everybody says is the part that nobody watches.
Yeah. And then Ant was like, he went, only thing was on the list. I mean, obviously he sells jersey, but he went on the list. I think Maxey was ahead of him. But I think it's because of games played. But even then, like 9 games, and he's still selling jerseys like that. And again, man, like the shoes, I want to get a start on the shoes, like, and all that. Like, kids love Ja. People love Ja. So all he has to do is just stay healthy and all that. And like, he'll be right back in the conversation. Like, I ain't even worried about that. Like, he made mistakes, obviously. He did dumb stuff, but it ain't like he's just dumb being a good basketball player, or he can't change. Like, it's not done for him. So, look, like I keep saying on Twitter, we not, what did Geno Smith say? They wrote me off, but we ain't writing back. Like, that's basically how I've been saying. Like, we're not writing back. Yeah, Geno Smith, we're not writing back. We're not writing back next year. I'm gonna keep saying that. We're not writing back next year. When they start saying all this stuff, oh my God, Ja Morant's the best guard or one of the best guards in the league again. Like, I'm like, all right, we told y'all this months ago. So that's how I feel.
Yeah. No, yeah, I definitely feel that. Like, to me, it's not necessarily that he has to prove it to me. I just, like I said, I feel like from an outside perspective, it's going to be a lot of that. And that's going to be a lot of the conversation. I'm going to say you're going to have to get ready for that in the offseason because, I mean, obviously it's the offseason for the Grizzlies now, but I'm talking about in the actual, like, after the finals, after the draft, and really in that post Olympics, between the Olympics and the beginning of the season, when everybody starts, grasping for straws of what takes they're going to put out about the NBA next season, we're going to see a lot of that. And I think just be prepared. There's a lot of people that are going to be putting a lot of pressure on him. And, obviously, I think he's one of those players that, and that's the thing. Players, I think, it does depend on the team. Like, there are some teams where the coaches, where, like, if you have a big name coach, or if it's like, a team with LeBron, the coach is always under the most pressure. But for a lot of the teams, like for the casual fans, don't know who the coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder is. Like, if you're just a casual fan, but they know who SGA is, the casual fan.
Mark Dagnall.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the casual fan isn't going to be like, Taylor Jenkins, he's a horrible coach. They're going to be like, oh, Ja couldn't get it done. Like, and that's just how it is. Like, and you can do that for any sport. Going down the line, NFL, NHL, baseball, it don't matter what it is. Like, it's a player-driven thing. Players drive narratives more than anything else. And I think we're going to see a lot of that coming into the season. So I think that, like, these young players, and I think they really have put pressure on each other, right? And it's almost like a race to see who is going to get the ultimate prize first, because none of them have actually won it all yet, obviously. Lucas made it to the Western Conference Finals. I don't know. We can kind of include Tatum in this. Tatum is older, but he's still only like 27, 26, 27. So he's kind of like
25.
Well, yeah, that is true, because he was 19 when he got drafted. He was famously 19 when he got drafted.
I'm tweaking. He's 26.
Yeah.
26.
But like
26. I'm tweaking.
But like, still, like, he has a chance this year to kind of take the lead on the whole young generation. And obviously, like, Giannis, Jokic, those guys are still just under 30. But like, I feel like they are solely, like, they're in their prime. So when I'm talking about the young players, I'm talking about the guys that we do not think are in their prime yet. Like, I think Jokic, Giannis are already in their prime. Tatum is like, if he's not in his prime, he's a year away from it, maybe, is what I say.
He is right there.
Right. And I feel like the guys we're talking about are probably still, like, maybe 2-3 years away. Right.
Yeah.
But
I say 1 or 2.
I still see them as, like, kind of in that same, like, it's gonna, they're all in the same era. Like, when you look back at it in 15, 20 years, they're gonna be like, that's gonna be their whole era, right? But I feel like, the first one of that young guard to really, win it all and win a chip and everything is going to kind of set the tone for the rest of these young guards, especially. But yeah, obviously we got to a lot of stuff today. There's one last thing we had to get in before we go, because if you guys know, the Night Court with Brevin Knight and Rob Fisher will be joining the Bluff City Media Podcast Network starting this month. I'm really excited for this, really excited to have them join the network. Obviously, we've been watching Brevin Knight and Rob Fisher on the Grizzlies broadcast forever. It's going to be awesome to get to see them working under the same umbrella. Try to see if we can get them on an episode or two, see what we can do. But, yeah, just wanted to shout out to, those guys for joining and really helping take this whole thing to the next level. And I hope that it's going to bring a lot of more eyes to, like, the network as a whole, their show, get some good, like, it's going to be awesome. All, like, the access and the stuff that they have already from the team, and to kind of hear them give their, more unfiltered kind of takes. Because, when you're on the broadcast, there's certain things you can't really say, right?
Yeah, FCC Airways, as I like to say.
Yeah, whatever, stuff like that. So it's like, it's gonna be good to hear that from them. And I'll just say, anybody, whenever that drops, obviously we'll be retweeting it on social media and posting that stuff out, and to keep an eye on the YouTube channels for that, just because it's gonna be awesome when they actually do get that started later this month.
Yeah, the only thing I'm gonna say is crazy, considering, like I was saying, I think, I didn't say it on here, but I said before, like when you grow up like a Grizzly fan like me and Bryson have, and like even like you know like your local people, like you just know everybody for the most part. So for them to join, because obviously, you know, some of us didn't know, we didn't know, but once I saw, I was like, wow, that's crazy. It's cool to have them on, obviously, and be part of the team because again, like they're just regular dudes like us, but like just they've been we known them just from watching, from watching them. So to have them in our little, in our part of our group is pretty cool. Obviously, they're gonna produce good content. I've been keeping up with Night Court for a while, ever since they started it. So it's it's pretty cool to see. Because it's funny because they were talking about it like, oh, we're gonna join somewhere else, and obviously I didn't know, they didn't say it. So when I saw it, I was like, wow. So and listen, shout out to the team for bringing them aboard. That's great. It's awesome. It's gonna be awesome. Listen, a lot more eyes on us, so you know how that is. Like, hey, listen, we still gonna produce great content. Ain't nobody worried about that. But it's just gonna be a lot more. It's gonna be a lot more fun. Hopefully, a lot more collaborations, not with just them, but just with everybody as well. So it's listen. We leveling up. We're moving on up. That's what you love to see. That's what we're going to continue to do. So, but shout out to them. I'm really interested to hear them, especially now. Once you get to do all the stuff, you're under umbrella and stuff like that. Like you said, they're not, restricted by, like I said, FCC airways. They can say what they want to say on here without too much restriction. Obviously, you don't say nothing crazy, but you can speak your mind, you speak your opinion a little bit more without people being like, oh, you supposed to say this because you're part of it. Like, they don't have to worry about that. So, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, for sure, definitely, and it's going to be awesome, and I'm really excited for them to get started as well. But as always, I just want to say thank you to everybody who listened to this week's episode of the Next Gen Podcast here on the Bluff City Media Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Bryson Wright, and I'll join my co-host, Alex Winton, and we'll see y'all next week talking more NBA playoffs, and we will have our post-draft lottery reactions, giving a breakdown on everything that the Grizzlies can or should do with whatever pick they get, whether it's 7, whether it's 4, whether it's 1. You never really know with this. So whatever they get, we'll give you all our takes on that. But yeah, appreciate everybody who listened this week's episode, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Next Gen Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a like and a comment wherever you download your podcasts. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co, where you will find comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports and how you can become an insider. We'll see you back here next time.